Mastery is not a function of time.
I did something that was totally out of my comfort zone. 2 people booking. They didn't even ask how much it cost. Website.
I finally did what you said about taking a 3-day solitude retreat.
Got my Dave Ramsey certified financial coaching license. I also got 3 agreements signed, 3 contracts signed since last week.
Wow. Wow. Let's go.
I look back to where I was last year and I'm like, wow, I have changed.
You did not just say, I want to have $100,000 somewhere and sit down in your house and do nothing about it. One thing I know that you did was you actually invested into learning the laws of money. You've been intentional about, this is what I know I want mastery in. This is what my mastery goal looks like. These are the investments I'm making to get closer and closer to mastery. Are you guys ready to know the 5 areas of mastery?
Yes.
Yes.
A lot of people have this belief, and I just want to punch that belief right in the face. Are y'all ready for it? So what's your reason? What's your excuse? What decision can you make? What radical action can you take? I got in my car. I left that client's house and I said, this isn't worth it. And I shut the entire business down. Welcome everybody to this episode of Mastery Live with Self Mastery Academy. I am absolutely excited for the conversation that we're going to have. Now, you guys have had, multiple episodes where I have brought in world-class leaders to come in and to share their gems, their knowledge, their wisdom with you and with me, because y'all, I am not here just to interview. I am here to learn for myself. But we've brought all these people in and we've been learning a lot of gems. And many of you guys are wondering, how on earth, who is this Toyin woman? How on earth is she getting these people to come on this podcast? How on earth is she connected to these people? And I just wanted to take one episode to introduce myself. Can I introduce myself? My name's Toyin Crandell, and if you came and found me 8 years ago, my life would not look like what it looks like today. The point of this episode is I want to get across to you what my goal is for every single member of our Self Mastery Academy and every single listener of this podcast. I want you guys to catch my heart. I want you to catch my vision, my version of the vision for what I see over you guys. And in order for me to do that, in order for me to share my heart with you, I just got to tell you a little bit about where I came from. 8 years ago, we were a very happy family. We still are. Thank you, God. Thank you, Jesus. Lots of joy, lots of peace. We did a lot of ministry work. We were out there surrounded by good family, good friends. We were rich in experience. We were rich in relationship. We were rich in love and joy. We were rich with peace. We were rich in so many ways, in faith, but we were struggling financially. Okay, so that's a better way to explain this. And because we were rich in so many other areas, I actually didn't even think about it. I didn't care about the fact that we didn't have much until December 2016. We were in this apartment. It was such a tiny space, y'all, that literally the room that I'm in right now, from this wall that I have to the wall over there, would have been our entire apartment. And this is a tiny fraction of where we live and stay right now. But we had a bedroom, we had a kitchen, we had a hallway. The hallway became our living room. We didn't have a couch. We had an air mattress that we used for a couch. And I always laugh because one of our friends came over and sat on our couch with a key in his pocket, and he popped our couch, and we just laugh about it. We would do parties, because we invite people over. We would worship God together, and we'd do these worship parties, and we'd be like, BYOC. What does that stand for? What do you guys think it stands for, BYOC? Someone unmute. Someone unmute.
Bring your own chair.
Bring your own chair. We literally did bring your own chair. So friends would come with the little lawn chair so that they had a place to sit. We literally just, our bedroom was so small that you had to like scooch sideways to get into the closet and get the stuff out that you needed, but we were very happy. So one day I was eating dinner in the bedroom, and my husband, Joshua, you're going to hear a lot about him throughout the podcast. So you might as well know his name. His name's Joshua, and I love him very much. So my husband, Joshua, walks into the bedroom and he gives me my food. We had a 6-month-old baby at the time, and I was still nursing. And he wasn't there. He went back to the kitchen. And so he calls out, like I call out to him. I'm like, hey, babe, where are you? He's like, I'm eating in the kitchen. I'm like, why are you eating in the kitchen? There's no chair. What are you doing in the kitchen? We eat in the bedroom on the bed. And so he comes to the bedroom and I say to him, you know, what are you eating? And he said, chocolates. And I laughed because my husband has what he used to. I don't know if he still does. Or maybe he just has a lot of discipline. I don't know. But he used to have a very big sweet tooth. So I was kind of laughing. I was like, ha, 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 you had a chocolate. What did you really eat for dinner? And he goes, chocolate. Toyin, we're out of food. We've been out of food for the last week. And I've been giving you the last of our food because you're nursing the baby. Every time I think about this, guys, I'm very grateful for him, but it also is just such a reminder of where we really were and how real things were for us back then. So he goes, I've been giving you the rest of our food because you're feeding the baby and I need to make sure that you guys have what you need. And that was like my first kind of reality check that all the happiness that we had, all the joy, all the peace, like it doesn't translate into groceries, you know? And like, you can't pay, one thing I always tell my people, you can't pay back then I was paying rent. You can't pay your rent, you can't pay your mortgage with like feeling good or with peace or with love. And so that was a big wake up call for me. I'm not going to tell y'all the whole story of how I shifted. If you want to know the whole story, like in depth of how I shifted, then you want to get my book, Money Mindset Shift. I really talk about what our process was for going from struggling to where we are. However, what I did want to say and why I bring this up is that we went from that place and we started changing, but things got worse before they got better. Has that ever happened to anybody? Is it just me? Anyone know what it's like where you're like, you finally see it, you want to do something about it, and you get all the promises from God, and then things get worse before they get better. And so now we're actively, tangibly trying to create a different financial reality. And that's just when we started to learn the lessons that we needed to learn. It got so bad that at one point we had to move 7 times in 7 months. And by the end of the 7th move, we actually lost a pregnancy and it broke our hearts. And it was just another one of those reminders, because guys, you have to understand the main reason we moved that much was because we were under a property management company that had a bunch of moldy apartments or moldy houses, moldy units. And they would just move us from one place that was full of mold to another place that was full of mold. And we did not have simple first and last. Because y'all know, in order to move to somewhere new, you need first and last, not just your rent. So we just didn't even have the first and last to be able to get up and be like, peace out, we're not going to do this anymore. And so they moved us around. And then by the time we now got first and last because someone donated to us, we now had to move. Like it was this whole thing. And I remember, just recovering from the miscarriage and just being so mad about how finances was dealing with our family. And if you read the book, you'll see I talk about this moment where I didn't understand it back then. I didn't understand mastery. I didn't understand finances or money in this level. But God had to put me in a room with hecto-millionaires who started to show me a different part of being masters at money without losing your faith. And it was in that season that I realized that I was afraid of money. So like, I wasn't just struggling with money because I wasn't smart. I'm very smart. I know that about myself, okay? I don't need nobody to tell me. I'm a very smart woman, praise God. Okay, I'm very smart. I had done my research. I remember I had watched 20 webinars in like the span of a month. Like I was really, I'm a hard worker. Nobody can touch me when it comes to hard work. I know how to work hard. I'm Nigerian. I think hard work just flows in Nigerian blood. It's like, I was even thinking, okay, let me not get distracted. Let me stay focused. I got lots to tell y'all about. But I'm a very hard worker. I was working hard. I was doing all the right things. I was running the business, and we would just have this roller coaster in our finances. And in that season, the Lord opened my eyes to see that it was my money mindset that was affecting me. It was my fear of money. It was my belief that if I had too much money, I would be farther from God. It was my belief that if I needed to work hard enough to make more money, I wouldn't get to spend time with my family if I wanted to make the type of money I wanted to make. And it was these types of beliefs that was keeping me chained up. And in this season, God shifted my thinking, shifted my behavior, and shifted my reality. So between that moment of struggling, needing to ask friends and family for rents and things like that, within 3 years, I made a decision at that moment that I wanted to be a millionaire in a year. Because if money had shown me so much shege, as my people call it, that means pepe, when money has wired you, then I'm going to prove that money ain't got nothing on me. So my first decision was, we're going to be a millionaire in a year. We didn't get there in a year, but we did get there in 3 years. And what I want to say next is just let you know a little bit of what transformation has actually taken place in our lives. I went from that place, not knowing much about money, sucking at business, unable to eat a vegetable. You'll see why this is important, okay? Like back then, I only ate rice and meat. Like vegetables was not in I couldn't even stand vegetables. And there's a reason I'm saying this. Back then, I didn't do vegetables. I overate back then all the time because I grew up, I don't know why, but I had this thing of like just being Nigerian, or maybe where I was, my friends or whatever, maybe it was just a me thing. I don't know. But I just overate. I looked fit, but I overate. I would go back and get 2 plates, 3 plates. And my husband used to laugh with me because it's like, if it didn't have carbs and meat, I haven't eaten yet. So anything else that people would give me, he'd just laugh. He'd laugh. And then it's like, when he knows when this type of food comes, now Toyin has eaten. So those were my habits back then. I did not get sleep. Let me tell y'all how things really were. I wouldn't get sleep. I would sleep for 4 hours in a day. I would literally run until I hit a wall and I got sick. Then I would rest for a week because I couldn't get up. And then I would come back into the game and I would run until I got sick again. So my life was not a mastered life. I had built success in areas of my life. I had built success in ministry. I had released multiple albums. I had won awards for my singing. I had gone on tour. I was leading a ministry. There were many things that were amazing. I didn't look unfit, so I could kind of cover it. You know what I mean? I kind of had the image of I got things together, but internally there was no mastery. Today, things are a little bit different. We became multi-millionaires. By the grace of God, we went from being the people under bad property management to being people who have multiple rental properties and taking really good care of our tenants. Like that makes me, y'all don't know how happy that makes me. Taking really good care of our tenants, 11 different streams of income. Can you imagine going from 0 streams of income to 11 different streams of income? Not 2, not 5, 11 real streams that come in almost every month for all of them. Some of them are annual, some of them are monthly, whatever. 11 is a big deal. Being able to eat with discipline, enjoying vegetables. I truly do. Like, it's the weirdest thing, and I will tell you why. But enjoying vegetables, being disciplined to get sleep, being disciplined to lead. And here's the kicker. Here's the real kicker. Back then, I loved Jesus. I still love Jesus. This is about faith. And I know that people who are listening to our podcast share many different faiths. I'm a Christian. I'm not ashamed of that. So you're going to hear a lot about that throughout the course of the podcast, okay? But I loved Jesus passionately back then, okay? Everything I did was for him. Everything, every decision that I made, all of those pieces. But I was also very undisciplined in my faith walk. And what I mean is, I used to tell people, you know, the spirit goes like the wind. So wherever the spirit blows is where Toyin goes. And I was just very unstable. Like I would go from this to this, to this project, to that project. There was no rhyme or reason. And it was all just based on my feelings. And like, what's the Lord saying? Okay, let's do this. Okay, let's do that. I would pray because I was leading a ministry. So I had to pray. Like we were praying together. This is what we did. We'd pray, we'd evangelize, we'd share the word. I'd read the word, but it wasn't very structured. It was just passion. That's what I would say was passion. And today, by the grace of God, this is not something that I boast in, but I just want to share because we're going to talk about mastery in faith, being able to both be passionate, because y'all know me, I ain't going to be boring. I think God is amazing. I think he is passionate. I think he loves passionate people. And I think I will never lose my passion. Amen. That's my prayer. I pray I will never lose my passion. But also, when you have this edge of discipline, of mastery in discipline with your faith, faith goes to a whole other level where there's a group of people. We've done this Bible study for like 4 years now. We meet every week online, different people that I've just met over the years from different places. We pray every single day. And I don't boast in that. I'm saying it because when we started, I thought it was impossible. Like God told us to pray in the middle of the day at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time till 1 p.m. Monday to Saturday. He told us to do it for a week. I was like, oh, I'm down. After the week, he's like, I want you to extend it to a month. I argued. I was like, God, Jesus, I don't want to disappoint you. Like, I don't want to say, yeah, I'm going to do it for a month. And then I don't show up because life is always lifing. And it's the middle of the day. And I coach so many clients. And I have so many staff members. And And you know what he said to me actually then? He was like, Toyin, are you arguing with me about prayer? About 30 minutes of prayer in your day? I said, oh my goodness. It was a wake-up call for me, for my faith. I said, God, you need to be more important to me than my agenda. And he literally said to me, you're used to ordering me around your day, ordering prayer around your day. So you have your day and you do pray. It's not like I was a prayerless Christian, because everybody knows a prayerless Christian is what? I need some Nigerians in the room. Unmute. A prayerless Christian is?
Powerless Christian.
Thank you, Danielle. Come on now. A prayerless Christian is a powerless Christian. So it's not that I wasn't praying, but I said yes. I said, okay, let's do this for a month. The month finished, and me and everyone, it was not just me, it was me with a group of friends. And we were just like, we don't feel like we should stop. And now it's almost going to be 2 years. Is it 2? Yeah, it's going to be 2 years by August of this year. So I'm saying that to say the things that I've seen happen in the place of discipline and mastery, even in the pursuit of God, is another level. I've been featured in Success Magazine as a top woman of influence in Black Enterprise, in USA Today. John Maxwell's latest book, High Road Leadership, has a segment where I'm talking about emotional capacity and how leaders are able to manage their stress in moments of crisis. Like, we out here, okay? We out here, by the grace of God, we've coached, as of this time that I'm recording this, 72,000 people across 13 countries. I've spoken at over 500 events. And we are one of the fastest growing companies in the nation, a multi-million-dollar coaching and consulting company that was on the list of the fastest growing companies in Canada, both for 2023 and for 2024. And it has just been an incredible, wild ride. Why this introduction? Why am I saying all of this? Can I tell y'all why? Because every single thing that I just told you is an example of mastery. And you guys on this podcast in Self Mastery Academy, you guys hear me use the word mastery all the time. And I wanted to dedicate a full episode. So even if you are coming back to rewatch this episode, feel free to skip all of that. But what I want to do with the rest of this episode is talk to you about what is mastery and what the hidden cost of being average is doing in your life right now. We're going to talk about how you are able to think better, execute faster, and build a life that you literally get to your deathbed pleased with. That's what we're going to talk about. Now, I know that many of you guys who are in the academy, who are listening to the podcast, engaging with our community, you guys are all at different places in life. And there's some of you guys that have mastery in one area, but you're gaining and building mastery in another. I know that you guys have built success and accomplishments in different areas of your life, because I always tell y'all, there is not one person that I have met on the planet that has not achieved something great with their life. Every single person has. Most people simply don't know where to find that thing. Anyway, many of you guys are in many different places. But there is a hidden cost to ignoring or being average in specific areas of your life. And this episode is going to help you to identify what are the 5 areas of mastery. Why is it important for me to gain mastery in these areas? What is the cost that I am currently paying for not having mastery in these different areas? And then we're going to talk about what does it look like to gain that mastery. So are you guys ready to know the 5 areas of mastery that is going to guide our conversation today?
Yes.
Yes.
Let's go.
Let's go. So the 5 areas of mastery that's going to guide our conversation today is in your money. Mastery in your money is not the same as mastery in your business or career. This is an important distinction right out the gate, because a lot of the people think that because you earn a lot in your business or career, you've mastered money. But I want you to know it's not the same thing, because I have actually coached people who have had 8 figures come through their hands because what? They mastered business, but have nothing to show for it because they did not master money. So mastery in money is the first area we're gonna hit in this episode. We're gonna talk about mastery in your health, because once again, this is an area of mastery that many people ignore until it is too late. The challenge with waiting until it's too late to master your health is that often by the time you are now already sick, it is so much more difficult to come back to equilibrium than if you had just said, let me get above equilibrium, so that if anything happens, it's just bringing me down to average, and then I go back up to mastery. Number 3, what number are we on? Number 3, mastery in your relationships. I attended an event, and it really, that was where I learned the importance of mastery in relationships. I have to give credit to whom credit is actually due, because my mom is someone that I really learned mastery in marriage. Like, this woman, she has 5 daughters, and she would sit us down and talk to us about having a good, happy marriage. Like, she is someone who is extremely accomplished. And when I say extremely accomplished, I mean, extremely accomplished. She is a practicing lawyer. She had a law practice in Nigeria for 20 years. We moved to Canada. She had to do the whole process again. She did the whole process again. She's now had her practice in Canada for how many? Over a decade? Over 2 decades at this point, over 20 years again. She runs 2 different shelters, one for women, a transitional home for women, one for people who are mentally, have mental challenges. She is a pastor's wife. So there's like thousands of people that call her mama, mommy, okay? Mama is our Nigerian way of saying it, right? Thousands of people call her mama. She travels all over the world with my dad preaching the gospel, and she like just is a mom of 5 girls with very busy lives and all of that. And she showed me the example of what it looks like to be a master of relationships. Because in being that kind of a woman, it can get to your head and it can cause you to take for granted the relationships you have. And one of the things that I love about what my mom did is that she's very intentional in her marriage about having a marriage that is happy and thriving. And then she was intentional with her daughters. So there's literally lessons that I have brought into my marriage. And by the grace of God, I have a very, very happy marriage. A lot of the things that I do is because she taught us, if like, this is how you respond. This is what you do. Little phrases like you can be right or you can be happy. And this was not after we were married. This is when we were still teenagers. Like I remember one night, she was talking to us about marriage. We had like 2 friends over. The conversation was so juicy that we started texting other friends. It was like late. It was the middle of the night. And we start texting people like, Mama is talking about marriage, da, da, da. By the time this woman was done, it was like 2 a.m. The living room floor was full of young women just sitting on the floor taking notes like, okay, got it. Okay, noted. Okay, for our marriage that is coming. So I want to say, like, I just got to give credit to where credit is due. She is someone that I learned a lot about mastery in relationships from. She does have a book, Making Your Marriage Work. So go, you can check it out if you want some marriage nuggets from her. But why am I saying this? Because there's a lot of times where when we are so focused in building in your business, in your health, in this, in that, in your money, we can take for granted the relationships that we have. And relationships, mastery in relationships is not just marriage. Mastery in relationships is friendships. It's community. It's access to mentors. Y'all heard that? That's mastery in relationships. And so a lot of y'all are already asking, Toyin, how are you getting these people on the podcast? It's mastery in being able to develop new friendships and new relationships that are genuinely mutually beneficial and something that adds value both ways. It takes mastery. What is mastery in faith? Mastery in faith is your ability to lean in when things get hard. Mastery in faith is your ability to stay centered when things get good. Because how many of us know that when things get good, there's a high temptation to go left? I found that even with all of the accountability that I have, the practices that I have to discipline myself in my faith, about twice a year, almost every year, I find myself a little bit off of center. And what do I mean by off of center? I just mean that I'm like these times where I'm so busy, I'm so caught up, I'm just running, I'm just doing, and God has to like sit me down and be like, hey, Toyin, remember why. Remember what's most important here. Remember that none of this matters. And so why am I talking about mastery in faith? Because when you are in this place of mastery in faith, even at your best, there's a hymn that says, so prone to wander, so prone to stray. So we're so prone to still kind of start veering off, but mastery is the ability to slow down enough to come back to center. So that's what I mean by centered. Mastery in faith looks like actually caring and thinking beyond the present. Many of us are so caught up in the present that we miss the big picture. And can I tell you guys that nobody on this planet, I know that some people are actually trying to do this right now, but nobody on this planet will escape death. You could be the healthiest, you could be the strongest, you could be the smartest, you could be the wealthiest. Nobody on the planet will escape death. The Bible says it is given once that man will die, and then there is the judgment. And so it matters that we are not just focused on gaining mastery in all these other areas, and we miss the billions of years that are going to come after this 120 years is over. Mastery in your business or career. Why does this matter? This matters because if you don't know how to be a master in your business or in your career, you won't have the leverage you need unless you get an inheritance. Some people get inheritance. You don't necessarily need to be a master in your business or career. If you get enough money and you just do what you need to do in mastering money, then it doesn't matter. So mastery in business and career is actually what feeds mastery in money. You do need to know how to be the best at whatever your field is. I don't care what it is. I don't care if you have a 9 to 5. I don't care if you run a brick and mortar business. I don't care if you run an online business. Wherever in life you have found yourself, wherever your purpose, wherever your calling, wherever your area of adding value to others is, mastery looks like being different. Being someone that they look at in that industry, in that field. And guys, can I tell you, I see people argue all the time. This person's copying me. That person took my thing. And that's not okay by itself, because that's what we got lawyers for. But at the core of it, you know what I always say? I say, even if someone tries to take what I said yesterday, they don't know where I'm going tomorrow. I don't stay stagnant. I don't train the same thing over and over and over again, sitting in the same place. By the time you think you've caught up to me, I'm already somewhere else. I'm in another place. I'm in another level. Mastery looks like this continual defining of what your field should look like. Mastery is exciting. Mastery is the best way to live life. Mastery is not about talent. Hear me. I used to be very talented. I literally, when I was 16 to 18, I ran a painting business, interior, exterior, made $150,000. We had 40 painters that were working in the company. I was doing well. I was very talented, but I didn't have mastery. I didn't have mastery of my emotions. Can I give you an example of what that meant? That meant that because I didn't have mastery of my emotions, I was having success in my business. We were serving so many people. I had so many happy clients, guys. I had one unhappy client that no matter what we did, they just got angrier. I don't know why. I don't know. We fixed the problem, they would still be angry. And I remember there was one conversation this person had with me face to face where they just railed on me. And like the original issue was completely resolved. So to me, logical thinking, I was like, if we resolve the issue, then the conversation's done. Like it's done. And it was at my own expense. I didn't ask you to pay for it. It's done. And even though it was done, this person in front of me just went off. You are this, you are this, you are this, you are this. And by the time they fit, and I literally cried. That was the first time I cried in front of the client. I was hyperventilating. Like I was just like, what's going on? I don't know how to handle this. I could not handle it. I got in my car. I left that client's house and I said, this isn't worth it. And I shut the entire business down. Do you guys hear this? I literally was like, that will never happen to me again. And in my unmastered brain, the only way for that to never happen again was I need to stop painting and doing what, like, none of it is worth it if I'm going to get yelled at. So while I could look at it and be like, yeah, but they shouldn't have done it, a mastered Toyin looks at that and goes, but Toyin, that's business. And that's not on you. That's not a reflection of you. Their reaction, the way that they spoke to you, the way that they treated you, even if you were wrong, is not a reflection of who you are. But back then, I hadn't built the muscle of emotional mastery. I am grateful because it allowed me to struggle financially, which allowed me to come and find Jesus. It was part of the path that God had for my life. I needed that. I did like money too much back then. So like I needed everything that happened, but it was also an example of the types of decisions we make when we don't pursue mastery. So mastery is not about talent. Mastery is not about luck. Mastery is not a personality trait. Many people think and behave and make decisions like mastery is a personality. So they look at people like Toyin and they say, well, the reason Toyin could do this, get there, win that, blah, 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 is because she's an extrovert. Can I tell y'all that not everybody that looks like an extrovert to you is an extrovert? We just know how to show up when we show up. My favorite thing to do is sit on the couch with my family. That's it. I just sitting there with my family, playing games, talking. It's my favorite thing to do. So it's not like I'm sitting down going, okay, when's the next time I'm going to be on stage? When's the next event? I used to be like, when's the next event? Let's go, let's do this, let's do that. And then I married a hermit. I call him a hermit. He's not a hermit, but I call him that, right? So I married like the ultra introvert. And he's kind of pulled me into his introvert life. And I actually like it there, but I still show up. And he shows up. He's about to do a book release in 2 weeks. He is a best-selling author. Y'all have seen his Instagram profile. He plays the bass professionally. When you watch his Instagram profile, you cannot tell that this man is an introvert because he shows up on that thing and he's like, facial expression. The whole thing is on. Why? Because he knows, and he's hilarious. Like he'll crack all these jokes. People just put it in the chat. He'll crack all these jokes. People like 1,000%. He'll do all this stuff there. But I promise y'all, he is the most introvert you could ever think an introvert could ever be. What's the title of his book? The title of his book is Beneath the Breaking Sky. It's actually a book for people who face disappointment, grief, challenges, and they want hope, like they want that connection to hope. It's a poetry book, but it's like a story poetry book versus just random poems. Anyway, if you want to hear about it, find him, Joshua Crandell Writes on Instagram, and you'll find the book there for sure, okay? But my point is, people think that mastery is a personality trait. How many of you guys were at the live training that Pastor Sunday Adelaja did for us just last week, okay? One of the things he talked about was what? He was so timid that for 2 days when he went to university in Europe, he didn't get up to get food because he was afraid that people would see him in line. That's how shy he was. And that same man led a church of 100,000 people that he started with 25,000 people in his local assembly alone. That same man led the largest church in Europe. The same person who was so shy. So what is my point? Mastery is not a personality trait. Can I tell y'all what mastery is? Mastery is a decision. It's a commitment. And it is a continual journey. Someone better say that back to me. Mastery is a decision. It's a commitment. And it is a continual journey. Mastery is a learnable skill that anybody on the planet can develop. Y'all know me, I don't have time for most internet back and forth, But one day I was watching something and someone had won an award and they were encouraging people and saying, like, if you really fight for this, you can do this. And someone was up in the comments going, yeah, that's easy for you to say because blah, 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 blah. No, it's because you're able to get on camera on YouTube and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, don't fight for your limitations. Fight for your dream. Many people are more committed to their limitations than they are committed to where they're called to be. So we look at someone who's winning where we're called to be and we say, well, that's because you're a woman, you're a man, you're white, you're black, you're Asian. That's because blank. The minute you give someone something because they are blank is the minute you have removed your own power. You by yourself have decided that you're not allowed to step into that room, to get into that level. Thank you, Ezekiel, in the chat. Average people fight for their limitations instead of their dreams. Now I want us to talk about what is the hidden cost of an unmastered life. What is the hidden cost of an average life? So there's two ways that you're able to live. You can either be reactive in mastery in life, or you can be proactive. And we're going to talk about what happens when you choose to be reactive or when you choose to be proactive. So the people who do not master their lives, the people who live in an average life, what they do is, number one, they wait for the change. I hope y'all can read this, to find them. Okay? So they are people who say, well, when they call me, I'll be ready. When I'm invited to speak, I'll put my speech together. When the platform is given, when the opportunity comes to me, it has to chase me down. It has to come and find me. I literally talk to people who have a product and they say, well, the Holy Spirit will let people find me. Or they sing, they have songs. Well, people they'll find me. It's just going to happen. And I'm like, okay, let's wait and let's see what happens. Let's see how long it takes. Because here's the thing. It's not about waiting and being reactive. People who have mastery take complete ownership of where they are called to be. Now, it's not just about complete ownership, but it's the fact that you literally learn as you go. When I did my first album, I could have said, oh, I don't know, like nobody I know has done an album because I didn't know as many people. I was 16. No, I was in my late teens when I did my first album. I think 19. So that was when I gave my life to Jesus. Oh my gosh, thank God. I didn't know a lot of people. I certainly didn't know anyone who had produced an album. I had never produced an album. I just realized that this is cutting off my ownership. What did I do? I simply decided to run. I didn't wait for someone. Well, no, I did. It was my very first one. Okay, so I'm going to give myself this credit. I was pretty afraid. I didn't want to do it. And one day my uncle actually came up to me because everyone was like, Toyin, you should do an album. You make up these songs. You sing at all these churches. Like, you should write an album. And I wasn't going to do it because I was so afraid. And one day my uncle came to me and said, Toyin, I will sponsor half of the cost of your album only if you start by December. And as soon as I got that, I was like, noted, let's get started. Right? But even when we started, like when I listened to my first album compared to my last album, I enjoy the songs, but there's certain parts where I'm like, oh, my voice then. And I shouldn't have because I wasn't sure about myself. So like, I knew I didn't want that and I should have said something, right? So like you listen to where you started and it's never where you are today. Winning Best Female Gospel Singer, I wouldn't be here. In fact, nobody would have even known my songs if I didn't do the album in the first place and then gain mastery and learn and grow over time. The second symptom of an average life, a reactive life, is people who allow the circumstance to determine their success. But people who live an average reactive life are people who allow their circumstance to dictate their result. And when we do that, there's many ways we do that. We'll say things like, you set out your goals for the year, okay? I'm going to gain mastery in my health. I'm going to go to the gym, or I'm going to gain muscle. I'm going to have my eating like this, or I'm going to do this or that. Then the year begins and things get a little busy. And then we say, oh, well, guess what? I was so busy, I just couldn't do it. There was just too many things on my plate. So I just couldn't, I couldn't handle it. So I just let it go. Or sometimes we'll say things like, well, I always said that I was going to write that book. I was going to release that book, but I don't know. And nobody ever connected me to a publisher. So because I'm not someone who's connected to a publisher, well, I guess the book can't get done. Like, it's people who allow what is happening to determine whether or not they get what they said or they do what they said. What is the antidote to being someone who allows your circumstance to determine your results? It's radical action. What do I mean by radical decision and radical action? The people who gain mastery. So when we did $1 million in a week in our company, right? We did an event and we had, I think, $1,200,000 come in over the course of a week and a half, to be more specific, more precise. And we had never done $1 million in a month up to that point. We had done a few $1 million per year. I could have easily said, well, you know, I tried to talk to certain coaches about my goal and they didn't really give me anything, or they weren't really excited for me. So I guess I shouldn't do it because my coach isn't telling me what I should do there. So I'm just going to sit with it. But I knew we're going to do $1 million in a week. And I went in and I was going to ask them questions about it, but they weren't wanting to give me stuff around it. So I said, okay, no problem. What do? I don't sit back and go, well, I guess I should change the goal because my coach isn't on board with that, because they don't see that it's possible for me. What I did was I made a radical decision. I asked myself, who do you know, Toyin, that has done either $1 million in a week or something close to $1 million in a week? That's literally the question that I asked. So what did I do? I thought of somebody. Oh my gosh, yes, I have a friend. She did an event and it was just over a weekend and she did $250,000. And because my question was essentially, who do I know that has done the most in the shortest amount of time, right? And I know them personally. I could give them a shout. She had done $250,000 in a weekend. I called her up. She spends an hour, 2 hours just schooling me. This is what it looked like. This is what you need to look out for. This is how we advertise. This is what we did. She just spit pure game. Were there pieces that I still didn't know how to navigate? Yes. Was it extremely stressful? Yes. Did we have vendors that showed up and killed it? Yes. Did we have vendors that broke our tech system? So every single day I was up till 6 a.m. fixing things before I was supposed to go on and train? Yes. But I asked the question, I made a radical decision, and I took radical action. I threw myself at the goal without caring, what are they going to think of me if I fail? And can I say that that's one of the things that stops most of us? Is, what are they going to think of me if I fail? I literally had a room full of people that if I didn't hit the goal and I failed, they would have literally said to my face, we told you. Why are you pushing like that? But it didn't matter to me because I knew what God had told me to do for my business. Are y'all following me? Too many of us are waiting for approval. And because you don't have approval, you say circumstance. Too many of us will say things like, it's because I'm married and my spouse isn't on board. They're not supportive of my dream. They're not supportive of my mission. Therefore, I can't get the results. And the truth is, you make a radical decision. And the radical decision doesn't mean bun my spouse. People be listening to the podcast like, yes, Toyin, radical decision, cut. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is a radical decision is I'm going to fight for the dream regardless. I'm going to make sure I get in an environment, radical action, where I get the support that I need, where I get the encouragement that I need, but I'm not going to let the dream die because someone hasn't given me permission. Some of us, our circumstances, you're a parent. I've got 3 little ones. I know what it's like. But sometimes they'll say, oh, well, because I'm a parent, results, I don't have time to do the thing that I need to do. Can I tell y'all that there was a time in our life where we were living in Kansas City and Josh was in school full time. We had a 1-year-old at that point, and it was just me and her all day. She is super high energy, like me. And during the day, I was supposed to be running this business. I was supposed to be going out and getting clients. But guess what? She literally would speak up as soon as I got in a meeting. And then she would climb between my laptop and my face and be right in my face. Like I could not have a meeting at all during the daytime at all. I could only do anything I was going to do when she went to bed. Because when she was awake, she was right here. Hello, mommy. So did I say, well, I guess I can't run the business? Because look, I have this 1-year-old. I'm living so far, because the reason it was also difficult was I was so far away from our families, both of our families. So I couldn't just take her to my sisters or take her to my husband's brother's families or my parents or his parents and be like, hey, could you watch her while I go work? It was just us. So I'm sitting there going, what am I going to do? So what do? He comes home. We spend time together as a family. They go to bed, Toyin stays up because I have a business to run, because I have a dream in front of me, because we're going to be a millionaire in a stinking year. Does that make sense? And while they were asleep, that's when work would start for me. So what's your reason? What's your excuse? What decision can you make? What decision can you make? And what radical action can you take to create the results regardless? The third symptom of an average reactive life is avoiding the hard work of gaining mastery. So let's just write that down. And what do I mean by avoiding the hard work of gaining mastery? I mean that many of us are willing to be hardworking. I learned this from Sunday at Elijah. Many of us are willing to be hardworking physically. Okay? So if someone told you, yo, Maya, I need your help. Could you come with me and we need to move my office from this office to that office? We're all in. If someone told you, hey, for your job, I need you to show up 3 hours extra this next couple of days because we have this extra stuff that we need to do. So you have to kind of just show up more. We're in. We know how to do hard work. If someone told you, listen, we need to build out we'll do it. Because we're hardworking. Many of you guys, especially those of y'all in Self-Mastery Academy, y'all are hardworking people. Many of y'all who are listening. Here's the difference, though, between the people who are reactive and average and the people who create mastery. Is being hardworking physically is not the same as being hardworking mentally. As the hard work of developing mastery. The hard work of developing mastery looks like what Ezekiel talked about just before we started the episode, y'all. He just shared how he just went on a 3-day solitude retreat because y'all have heard me talk about it so much. Take 3 days, go be alone with God. Let God speak to you. Think differently about your life. Think differently about your goals. Get away from the noise for 3 full days. And he shared, I finally did it. And what's my point? Most people never will. Why? Because that's harder work than just going with the flow, doing what everyone else is doing, just being in autopilot. It takes hard work to go against the current. And the current is be busy. Get things that just run, just run, just run. This is hard work. Good job, good job. Look at you working so hard. You're not getting anywhere. You're running on a hamster wheel. You're in the same spot over and over again. But good job. Look at you. You're doing so good. Look, mastery looks like the willingness to slow down enough to create systems and habits that make success inevitable. Someone who becomes a master is not playing the same game as the rest of the population. And that's something that I had to get comfortable with, and I had to learn for myself. Was Toyin, what you are pursuing is not what they are pursuing. So while everyone is pursuing a popularity contest, you guys will notice something about me. If you follow me on Instagram or on Facebook, and if you don't, go find me on Instagram, on Facebook, wherever you want to find me, Toyin Crandell. But one thing you'll notice about me is that we're setting up our content team and all of those pieces, but generally, you don't really hear from me unless there's a reason for me to speak. Like, I'm not just sitting there all the time, always da 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 da. And in fact, there's certain periods of time that Toyin's just gone. Like I said, that actually is going to get fixed with a content team, so I'm never gone. And I just did we just tested it out where I went on my retreat and the team posted on my behalf and I was like, hey, next level. But even if we don't have that, because not everyone has a team, a content team or whatever, right? For years, where it's me posting on all my stuff, I was content with not winning the popularity contest. So if there's something that needs to get done, if there's a system I need to build, if there's a habit I need to develop, to put my head down and work it out. And then when I show up, everybody goes, it just comes naturally to her. You know, Pastor Sunday said on the last episode of the podcast, he's like, Toyin, one thing that I've noticed about you is that you ask great questions. And that's one of those things that people, once again, assume it just comes naturally to her. But it doesn't. It comes from intentional practice. I remember running into Mike Tyson. And I could have been like, oh my gosh, I saw Mike Tyson. We flew together on the plane. Oh, this is wonderful. And just walk past him and go home. Have a good story to tell. But I stopped and I said to the bodyguard, can I go and take a photo? Was my question. that was my in. I was like, can I go take a photo with Mike? The bodyguard's like, no. Most of us don't even go to ask the question because you're anticipating the no. I got the no. He's like, no. And as I'm turning, I catch Mike's eye. And Mike looks at me and he's like, oh, let him come over. And it was me and Steph and my daughter. He's like, let him come over. Let's take a photo. It's all good. And the bodyguard's like, okay, fine. Right? And we go over and I could have got a photo with Mike Tyson and said, oh my gosh, I got a photo with Mike Tyson. But no. What did I do while we're smiling, taking the photo? I say, Mike, can I ask you a question? Thank you. I think y'all are starting to understand it's a conversation. Can I ask you a question? And Mike goes, sure. And I ask him, what causes you to get in the ring over and over and over, especially back when he was doing it full time, knowing you're about to get punched in the face? Because like, average Toyin, non-boxer Toyin, I'm not stepping into an environment where I know I'm going to get punched in the face. So what mentality allows you to be able to see the punch coming and walk into it? And he gave me a good answer. So what is my point though? Learning to ask questions or asking great questions didn't just come to me. It came from years of intentional practice through habits that I've developed, which is if I see someone that I know I want to ask a question to, just put your hand up. That's a habit. and through systems. So writing down different types of questions. I literally have questions for when I'm with a group of people and we're all strangers. We hosted a retreat in Mexico, in Tulum, just this last week. And we had people come from different parts of America. Most of them didn't know each other, but they were following me and I knew some of them. But we get around the table and we're all strangers. And what do? I just say a question. That's one of the questions that is a system for getting deep and getting to know people. That was our first conversation in the retreat and tears were shed. And we became family. Oh my gosh, that was just like me. Oh my gosh, that's what I experienced. Oh my gosh, you experienced the same. Multiple millions of dollars, successful business owners. Oh my goodness, I am not alone. We were sitting at that dinner table, mosquitoes were biting us all over, and we didn't care. We were there for I don't know how long. Just, oh my gosh. There are other people just like me. What happens when you gain mastery? What happens when you allow yourself to become the person that you have envisioned for yourself over the years? I read somewhere that one of the most painful things is to have an image of yourself, to have an image of yourself inside and not know how to generate that life externally. And that's what this podcast is here to help you to do, to learn. That's what Self-Mastery Academy is all about, is how do I convert the vision that I carry on the inside? Someone said, in that chat, how do I convert the vision that I have on the inside of me into what I want to create and build externally? There is a vision that I have on the inside of me for what we are going to do, the number of people we're going to impact, the way we are going to reach them, the level of transformation we're going to see, the testimonials, the lives, the money, the business, the health, the relationships, the career, every single part of it, the relationship, the restoration that we're going to see because of what we are doing on this podcast, in this academy. And we've already started to see it over the last 12 months. But that vision is literally in the process of being actualized right now. And this podcast is me coming to tell you the process that I'm using to develop this and have used over the years over and over and over and over again. So what happens when you gain mastery? Number one, your income increases because your value increases. And when I talk about value, I don't mean your inherent value. Everyone is inherently valuable as a human being. You are created in the image of God. I believe that every single person has value. When I speak about value related to your income, I am speaking of your marketplace value. So for those of y'all that want a financial shift, the more you embrace mastery, the more your value will increase, the more your income will increase. Your income increases because the value you have increases. Now, can I say something about that? That goes with the what Beth celebrated in the academy just before we started the podcast, where she talked about, she did Money Mindset Shift, one of our programs. She then stepped into, she did Self-Mastery Academy first, actually, and then she joined Money Mindset Shift. And she shared how she has hit her savings target for her investments, something that she thought was so far away. 6 figures, come on. Not just that, but the process of being able to do that was seeing her income increase by getting additional money, not just because she got more value because she was learning, but because her value increased because she was able to produce. And that's part of what we talk about here, is how do you actually produce? Because if you don't produce, it doesn't matter what's in your head. Nobody ever got paid just for thinking. Some people actually do. But even the idea needs an MVP, right? That first product, that example you can show an investor in order for them to pay you for it. But most people, outside of those exceptional circumstances where you're developing an MVP and you're just developing the vision of it, you need to produce. And even for the people who say this is the MVP, this is the vision, guess what? They've produced in other areas, so there's credibility that they carry. What happens when you embrace mastery? When you embrace mastery, your relationships flourish. I don't mean that everything is rosy all the time. I don't mean that this specific relationship with this one person that's been really strained is magically going to turn around. Though we have seen that happen. We literally just today, someone who's now been running with us started really focusing intentionally on a specific relationship and just got restored to her daughters. And she told me the backstory. They haven't talked for years. And she just got restored. So yes, we can see those specific relationship turnarounds. I saw a couple that's been estranged for 10 years, just got back together a few months ago and have been inseparable. So those happen. It's incredible. But when I say your relationships flourish, I mean the general culture and environment that you have in your life. I curate my environment. Y'all follow me? Curate? I curate my environment. I am extremely intentional about who has my time, about where I invest my time. I'm intentional about my friendships. I'm intentional about my marriage, about my relationship with my children. I'm intentional, and you can curate the environment that allows you to fulfill the thing that God has called you to do. It doesn't mean you cut people off. I have friends that are not necessarily going in the same direction as me, but I know how to be present with and for them, and how and where to draw boundaries so that I'm able to still run into the things that God has called me to do. When you gain mastery, your relationships flourish. You also know how to keep your mouth shut when you need to keep your mouth shut. Because that's one of the biggest reasons relationships break down, is we don't have the discipline to keep our mouth shut and address things in specific ways. Many of us, we think a thought, we feel an emotion, we dump it on whoever's there. And it's mastery to address challenges, to address hard conversations, but do it in a way that you actually become closer, not farther, because there was a relational challenge. When you embrace mastery, number 3, your confidence skyrockets. Now, can I say something about this? Your confidence is not for you. Your confidence is for the people that are around you that need a sign that it's okay for them to show up with what God has placed inside of them. There are literally tens of thousands of people that today are doing what God has called them to do because I stepped out to do what God called me to do. And one of the people that makes me the most happy about my own confidence is my 8-year-old daughter, Maranatha. I have a daughter. She's watched. Now, can I just say this? Let me start here. Your confidence is not for you. It is generational. My dad and my mom developed themselves. They studied. They learned. They pushed themselves out of their comfort zone. My dad came from a village in Nigeria. His goal initially was to become a taxi driver. And that's a good goal to have for the person that is called to serve as a taxi driver. There's nothing wrong with it. But it wasn't his calling, it was all he could see. His initial goal in life was just to be able to be a taxi driver. He figured if I could be a taxi driver, I would have it made. No one had an education in his family. He went and got an education. Then there was a man who told him, he told the guy his goal was to be a taxi driver. The guy said, with the brain that you have, why don't you go and get a PhD? He studied chemical engineering. He was the first person to go to school, the first person to go to university, the first person in the family to get a PhD. And then because of his PhD, doors opened up all over the world for him to go and share what he had researched. He became the first person in the family to go out of the country, Nigeria. Then he's traveling all these places. He already was married to my mom. My mom was from England, from Britain. But they developed this culture of confidence, of do what God said to do, how he said to do it. He would wake us up at 6 a.m. and talk to us. This is what Martin Luther King Jr. said about the way that you show up. He would tell us things like, if you're going to be a janitor, be the best janitor there is. If you're going to sweep the streets the best way you can. Like, he began to train us in how to think about who we are. Can I give y'all one more example that has always stuck with me? When we came to Canada, when we migrated, both of them lost their qualifications. And my dad redoes. So my mom redid the law one. She's running her practice right now. My dad redid, he had already retired. He'd finished his whole career in Nigeria. He moved here and lost his credentials. He's retired. He could have been like, okay, who cares? He went back, regained the credentials, did 1 year of working in Libya or something like that, came back from Libya and retired again. And then sits us down to tell us, and when I say retired, my dad has traveled to 90 countries. He is literally a fuller schedule than me. He preaches the gospel. That is his work, okay? But he retired from his profession. He sat us down and he said, do you guys want to know? This is the lessons he taught us. He said, do you want to know why I did all this? Why I came to Canada? I redid all the tests. I got my qualifications again. I went to Libya. I just got back and now I'm retiring. Do you want to know why? And we're like younger. So like, yeah, I actually was curious, like why? And he said, because I didn't want it to be that the qualifications were stripped from me. Therefore, I cannot do it again. I didn't want it to be that I came to Canada and I became a victim. Now they've taken away my qualifications. There's nothing I can do. I wanted to show you that no matter what happens, you still have an option. You still have a choice. And that's burned in my brain. This is what I mean by it is generational. Even though his dad didn't go to school, his dad was a leader in the village. How? His dad, this is the stuff that I learned about our family. His dad was the person that would wake up at 4 a.m. and ring the bell for everyone in the village to wake up and pray. So each person, you be the best at whatever your level is called to. So what happens? My dad does that. He's written 12 books. He's traveled to 90 countries. He's da-da-da-da-da. My mom has done this. So all of a sudden, I have a mentality, anything is possible. I become the first Nigerian Canadian candidate with a major federal party in the nation to run for election. Became the first millionaire in dollars in my family. And my dad's the one that pointed it out to me. Toyin, you are the first millionaire in dollars. He's like, I was the first millionaire in Naira. Now you are the first millionaire in dollars. And he will go to the whole family. Who's going to be the first? My sister became the first nurse in the family. He's like, let's go. Who's going to be the first lawyer? One of my sisters. I was like, it ain't going to be me. One of my sisters became a lawyer. He's like, let's go. One of my sisters went to an Ivy League school. He goes, you're the first one in the family to go to an Ivy League. Do you guys understand? You get to start to carve your own paths. It doesn't mean we all have to be the same. It doesn't mean we all have to look alike, but at least you're gaining mastery in your own area. And this is how it translates. My daughter now sees me show up. She saw me write 2 best-selling books. She sees me speak on stages. She comes with me to our events. She is sitting front row taking notes, real notes, not doodles. She's learning the lessons. I'm listening to training, she's listening to. I'm listening to a book, she's listening to. What does she do? She writes her own book at the age of 8. It becomes an Amazon #1 hot new release for 2 weeks. Thanks to many of you guys, her internet aunties and uncles. Thank y'all. Hey. She hits that milestone. She doesn't stop there. I go to business conferences. She's like, Mommy, can I apply to attend as a youth? They had a limit that you had to be 12 years old to 19 years old to apply as a youth. My daughter is how old? 8. She said, let me apply anyway. She does the video. She gets accepted into the youth cohort. She attends the business conference now as her own business owner. She sells out all of her books. But while she's there, she goes, I'm meeting so many people who have achieved success and overcome fear, because her book is about children overcoming fear. I'm meeting so many people who have overcome fear. I have a YouTube channel. Let me do interviews. She now starts doing interviews with people. I'm not even going to get into the whole story, but it multiplies. Today, she landed her first paid speaking engagement at a school in New York to speak to grades 1 to grade 5. Bulk order of her books. Are y'all hearing me? This is an 8-year-old. And I'm telling you, this isn't one of those cases, you know, where parents are dragging their children to run and come and go. This girl is pushing me. She's the one like, Mommy, let's go. Mommy, I got a pitch. Mommy, we got to get this written down. Mommy, can we do my video? Mommy, can we post this? Mommy, can we? Why? Up and dressed and ready to go before I even wake up, guys. This morning, she brought me breakfast in bed. I'm like, who are you? Who are you? And thank God and thank you. But what is my point? When your confidence skyrockets, please hear this. It's not just for you. It's for the people that are around you that need that example, that it is okay to shine. It is safe to shine. That's all I'm going to say. The last thing I'm going to say that happens when you learn and embrace mastery. This is one of my favorite things. I could say a lot of different things that happens when you embrace mastery. But one of my favorite things is you can literally look back and see your own transformation year after year after year after year. Let me just write this down. Transformation. It's kind of like the gym, where like you go in every day, but you don't really see it on an everyday basis. Like you know, sometimes you go to the gym, you pull some weights and you feel like you should look different immediately. Because you're like, the way my muscles hurt, I'd be looking in the mirror like, come on, muscle, you need to be showing now. And it's like, it doesn't work that way. But if you're consistent over 3 months, over 6 months, I remember when the first time they told me to do 12 leg ups on the gym, at the gym, I couldn't even hang, much less do 1 leg up. I went up, I came down. 3 weeks in, I'm doing 8 leg ups. What? Is this possible? I love transformation. I love being able to look back and be like, wow, Toyin today is not Toyin last year. I spoke to a mentor. We did a corporate, a corporate training for his company. And at the end of the training, he came up to me, or he just said this. He didn't come up to me because he was on Zoom, but some of the people were physical. He said this. He's like, Toyin, you are not the same Toyin as 4 years ago, the last time he had seen me. And I said to him, I am not the same Toyin as 4 months ago. That's how rapidly I have embraced change. So if you guys want to know what my heart is for this podcast, if you want to know what I mean when I talk about Mastery Live with Self-Mastery Academy, if you want to know what my heart is for every single member of our academy, is that when you look back 12 months from now, after listening, implementing, adapting, engaging, asking questions, sharing, commenting, getting in the community, getting in that environment, that you look back 12 months from now and you say, oh my gosh, I am not the same person that I was back then. And my life is not the same life that I was living back then. That is my heart. And I'm so honored and excited that you guys have decided to trust me on your journey of transformation and to come and walk that journey together. So one thing I want to say is if you've learned anything in this episode, I want to invite you to subscribe to the podcast. Don't miss an episode. Every single week when an episode is released, tune in and don't just listen, but implement. Number 2, don't make it your secret sauce. One thing I love about our community is the generosity of our community. But be that person that is not just multiplying yourself, but is willing to share those nuggets with your friends and with your family members. Not all of them want a journey of mastery, but there are many people who don't even know it's possible. Number 3, I want to invite you to leave a review and hit the like button on this video if you are watching it on YouTube. If you're listening, definitely leave a review so that other game changers, other chain breakers are able to know this is where they need to be. And if you're watching this and you have not stepped foot in the academy, boy, oh boy, I don't know what you're waiting for. Get yourself over to www.selfmasteryacademy.ca, where you're not only going to be able to hear and learn these principles, but you're going to be kept accountable. You're going to be able to ask questions. You're going to be able to engage with the information, and we're going to be watching and tracking that transformation journey that you are on together. Yes, I'm inviting you to join Self-Mastery Academy. Go to selfmasteryacademy.ca, and we would be honored to walk this with you in a closer, more intimate journey. We love y'all, and we'll see you guys on the next week's podcast. Peace. Hey, millionaires. Thanks for tuning in to today's show. If you want to subscribe, there's a little picture of me right here. Click on that. And if you want to have a free financial breakthrough session with my team, then you can go on ahead and click on the button right here or visit moneymindsetShift.ca/call. I'll see you guys on the next show. Bye-bye.